We're also very disappointed that the government of British Columbia doesn't seem to be providing the full picture of the measures that are in place to protect the coasts.
Well, two provinces are taking the federal government to court over key policy priorities, pipelines and climate change. British Columbia now seeking a court reference on whether or not they do have the jurisdiction to stop the Trans Mountain Pipeline. A legal and political question, by the way. Meantime, Saskatchewan wants to know if the Prime Minister has the authority to force provinces to put a price on carbon. So where does the balance of power lie? Can BC stop this pipeline? Is this another delay tactic? The Scrum is going to weigh in on that again. Joining us today, Michelle Zilio, reporter with the Globe and Mail, is here. Joyce Napier, CTV's Ottawa Bureau Chief, is here. Craig Oliver, CTV's Chief Political Troublemaker, commentator, and our, well, I could say troublemaker, and yeah, why not? It's a badge of honor. And our special guest today is Rona Ambrose, the former interim Conservative leader and member now of the Prime Minister's Advisory Council on NAFTA, which we will talk about. Good morning to everybody. Let's start with you, Rona Ambrose. By the way, also a troublemaker. Can we just talk about this pipeline question? BC is asking for a reference. Is this a legitimate question for them in terms of provincial federal jurisdiction, or simply another delay tactic on the pipeline?
I think it's another delay tactic, and we know that if they don't get the answer they want here, they will find another way to delay this pipeline. But it really, people call this a constitutional crisis. I agree with that, but it's also an economic crisis. And I think part of the silver lining in all of this crisis is that Canadians are starting to understand that we're actually selling our resource, one of our most important resources, at a discount to the United States. And we're literally subsidizing Donald Trump's economy with cheap oil.
What has to happen, and it has to happen soon, is that the federal government needs to trot out its legislation declaring federal paramountcy over this pipeline. If that happens, and it's got to happen quickly, and the reference goes against British Columbia, that may give Horgan what some people think he needs, which is a reason to sort of come down some degree and say, okay, maybe I can win this one, but let's focus on the sea, the ocean, and the damage that might happen from heavy oil. And that, there's a whole point there, because that's what the reference is all about when you look at it closely.
I do think, though, the federal government might have to join this reference to fight it. Where are you on this, Michelle?
Well, I think we're heading into a pipeline politics, war over the next month. Kinder Morgan has put a tight deadline on this of May 31st to figure out how the federal or provincial governments are going to respond. So the feds are going to have to speak up soon and make clear how they're going to respond to this. And then, I think it still remains unclear how this BC court case is going to interfere in that process. Will the feds wait for that to go through, which we all know will take forever, or will they just go ahead and get this done?
What do you think about this?
Well, I find it interesting because all we've heard for the last year from the federal government is, once Horgan came into power, is that we are going to build it.
Right.
That's all we hear. Okay, so now I'm convinced that I understand the words, but where are they with this? Why are they not just doing it? And in the meantime, we gave, the company,
Kinder
Morgan, a way out, because taxpayers are going to end up by paying for this. So how did this all happen?
But remember, financing has, Kinder Morgan does not need financing.
Exactly.
This company is not in a situation where they need money from anyone. You even had people saying, why would we subsidize a pipeline being constructed? The idea was that if the government put more skin in the game, that perhaps maybe we could reassure shareholders and Kinder Morgan wouldn't stop the construction of this pipeline. But the reality is they don't need money. They need the provincial government in British Columbia to get out of the way so they can actually do the construction based on permits that have already been legally given to them.
They've responded badly to this latest reference, saying it's yet another frustration that they've been complaining about in terms of trying to find an open way, a free way to build this pipeline. I think probably they're going to end up saying we're out of here.
Okay, does the Environment Minister, Catherine McKenna, proposing to create a new federal provincial Indigenous panel, joint scientific panel, to study oil spills and response? Does this help or hurt the case to get this pipeline built, Michelle? Clearly she meant it as an olive branch to BC. Does BC turn it around and use it to further delay?
Well, I'm calling this a peace offering at this point, as you know, had they head into a potentially very difficult month of talks and negotiations. So this could really backfire on them. BC could say down the line, well, then why did you propose this panel if you were so sure that this was in the national interest? I don't know about this one, and I really don't understand the thinking behind it.
The major complaint of British Columbia increasingly isn't the pipeline, it's the ocean, it's the tankers. And if you focus on dealing with that, that may be a possible way out.
They're linked. All right, real quick, Ron Ambrose, is the pipeline dead?
I said at one point I never thought this would get built, and it wasn't because I'm this pessimist, because I'm an optimist, but I could see what was happening in British Columbia. My concern is you could have panel after panel after panel, and what ends up, what the end goal here is civil disobedience. And I don't know how Prime Minister Trudeau is going to tell an Aboriginal grandmother who's standing in front of a bulldozer to get out of the way. I mean, this is not going to end well for Kinder Morgan. If we can't get Kinder Morgan done, this is a very serious economic crisis.
And add to that the uncertainty now over NAFTA, by no fault of the federal government, but there is an uncertainty. So investors are waiting, and even Canadian companies don't want to expand. Everybody is standing by to see what's going to happen with NAFTA, and then you have this Kinder Morgan thing. So you're looking at this from the outside and you're saying, do you want to invest in Canada? I suspect the answer is not really.
All right, let's talk about NAFTA. I'll start again quickly with Rona. Obviously, you're on the panel, Rona Ambrose. Word is there could be an agreement in principle in the next couple of days. That early, there have been intense negotiations right up till Friday and through the weekend. Where are we at now on the NAFTA situation?
A great deal of progress has been made, specifically around rules of origin for automotives, and I think that bodes very, very well for the negotiations. The rules of origin around autos is the most difficult, yet the most important part of this agreement and these negotiations, especially for Donald Trump. If he can say, we've reached some kind of an agreement or framework where we can build more cars, build more American parts in North America, in the United States, that's a great sign to his voters about more jobs that he could bring to the United States.
Yeah, suddenly a little optimism there. I mean, some sunlight, although I think there's some darkness, Michelle, over the sunset clause that Donald Trump wants, maybe. But I don't think that's probably the thing, as Ron Ambrose says. That may not be the hill to die on. They could get an agreement of principle. I don't personally understand what an agreement of principle does, except it means that at least there's good faith. What's your take?
Well, what I'm looking at in the short term is next week. We were looking at a potential imposition of steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada and Mexico. So what's going to happen there? The ministers have walked away from the table for the next week. Negotiators are still working. So is that going to throw a wrench in the plans? And then in terms of the sunset clause and all the other pieces of material on the table still to be figured out, this could blow everything up. And adding on top of that, Mr. Trump is the president of the United States. He could just put his hands up and walk away whenever he wants to.
Are you saying he's unpredictable, Michelle?
Craig. Agreements in principle always do one thing. They paper over the cracks in the things they can't quite agree on in principle.
Right, which is more than we have. Okay, last word.
Well, it's better than what we've said so far, that this agreement would never happen, that NAFTA was going to be torn. Yeah. And, he's getting more pressure from his own people, Donald Trump, not to throw this agreement in the garbage. So that's, we've got good allies in the United States.
All right, well, I really appreciate that. Look, if he can get North and South Korea to come together, we'll talk about that in the next Scrum. I think NAFTA should be a lot easier than that. All right, Rona Ambrose and Michelle Zilio, thanks so much for joining us on the Scrum.